So you get into troubles in the opening. I get it, we all have experienced that. I am no exception. But by the end of this video, you're gonna know what is truly essential in the opening, why 99% of chess players are playing the opening the wrong way, and of course, what exactly you should do to play openings like a pro. Let's get started. We are gonna start with must-know opening principles that absolutely every chess player must know, but in the reality, even experienced players are disregarding those, and that's why they get into trouble so often. We are gonna continue with intermediate ideas that are very cool to know, that are gonna really bring you into the next level and help you outcome these difficulties that you currently have at your level. Finally, we are gonna cover some advanced stuff that will truly revolutionize the way you play chess. It will change the mindset that you have, the way you think about chess, and that would bring you to the level you have always dreamed of, leaving 99% of your opponents behind. First of all, why pretty much everyone below 2000 rating is playing the opening their own way? The reason is so-called hope chess, and this scholar mate is a perfect example for that situation. Now, the last move white made here was queen to h5. The idea is very clear. The white is attacking the f7 pawn, and if black doesn't care about white's threats, white is delivering checkmate in one. Everybody is happy, well, except for black, of course. And white is thinking, well, I'm playing fantastic chess. The problem with that is this queen h5 move is a hope chess, because it's breaking so many objective key opening principles that you should try to never break. First of all, it's developing the queen too early. Normally, you should develop your minor pieces first, and only afterwards your major pieces. The major ones are the queen and the rooks. Secondly, you should never make more than one move with one piece. That is the golden rule of development. So here, after queen h5, if your opponent is not gonna blunder queen takes f7 checkmate, which he should, because you should always ask yourself whenever your opponent makes a move, what is the idea behind that move? You shouldn't think like, my opponent went crazy, why is he bringing the queen to h5? He's just stupid, I'm gonna play knight f6 and kick him away. No, you should really think why the queen is on h5. You should ask yourself two questions, generally, when your opponent makes a move. What this piece is doing on this new square it is now, what the queen is doing on h5, that it wasn't doing on d1. So, in other words, what has changed in the position? Well, it's doing now attacking the f7 pawn that it wasn't doing before. The second question is, what is the queen not doing on d1 anymore, because it's no longer on d1? Well, it might be protecting the c2 pawn. If the knight would be here, for example, that might be very relevant because you might grab that pawn. But first of all, what the queen is doing on h5? Well, you start with the most attacking opportunities, with the most active things that your opponent can do. And those are checks, captures, threats, and active moves. So generally those are moves forward and especially checks. That is like main focus you should have. And so queen f7 is a check threat, which is simultaneously a mate threat, and you simply cannot ignore it. So the right way to handle it could be, for example, the move g6. Then you kick this queen away, and back to our initial problem from the white side, white needs to spend now 2 tempi for the same piece in the opening. That is breaking the golden rule you should never break. One move for one piece. Try to remember this rule, please. That's gonna serve you so much, and we are gonna take a deeper look at that a little bit later on. So hope chess is when you make a move which is actually not useful for you objectively, hoping to get some advantage due to your opponent's mistake. Like in this case, we are playing queen h5, which is not actually what we want to do, what we should do in the opening, but we hope to give a checkmate in one. There are two main reasons why such a strategy of hope chess is really hugely bad for your chess. First of all, of course, there is a chance that your opponent is aware of those traps you have prepared, and then you're going to be just stuck in this game. For example, if he doesn't blunder f7 here and plays g6, and your queen has to go away. Secondly, even if you succeed with that and your opponent does blunder that and you're taken on f7 and you are very happy about it, that might feel cool for just 1 second, but in the long term, it's absolutely not beneficial for you, because you don't learn anything at all in the process, absolutely anything. That's just not good for you in terms of your chess development. And I don't want you to learn a few traps like everybody around is doing with those endless YouTube videos, like 10, 5, 50 best traps you need to learn in the opening. I mean, that is not the way you really improve in chess. That's why I don't make those videos. I make this video when I want you to deepen your understanding of chess, in particular, your understanding of opening laws, opening principles that you must follow to truly improve your chess level. Now, we know what not to do. Let's talk about what we should do. The first key opening principle you absolutely must know is the importance of the center. The center is the most important part of the chessboard, and you should always and always fight for it. It's like the city center. All of the most important events are happening there. All of the best parties, all of the best concerts, whatever you might imagine, most of the people are going into the city center because that is where all of the main actions are going to happen. The same way it works in chess. If you control the center, you have the power and you control the entire board. In chess, we have 8 by 8, 64 squares board. Well, we conveniently have these 4 squares quadrant in the center. That exactly is where you should put your focus on. There is a bigger quadrant here, 4 by 4, 16 squares. That is the place where you ideally want to place your pieces around so that you control those squares. Now, of course, there are some exceptions. For example, if you are fianchetto your bishop somewhere here, then it's not standing in the center, but that keeps an eye on the entire center there. And that is essential, that is very important, that is a very good position for the bishop. So to start fighting for the center, normally you want to develop one of your central pawns here on 2 squares, e4 or d4, because this way you control immediately some squares in the center and you don't allow your opponent to take full control of the center, and also you open up some ways for your pieces to be developed. Now, what is a better move, e4 or d4? Of course, there can be the objectively right or wrong answer because both moves are absolutely playable and everybody is playing both of them. But if you are just starting out, or if you don't have thousands and thousands of hours to learn the opening theory, I can sincerely recommend you play the move 1d4. Why is that? So many players are playing e4, Magnus Carlsen, Fabiano Caruana, pretty much everybody on the top level are playing e4, at least from time to time. Why shouldn't you do that? Well, because they are working full time. They are chess professionals, that is their job. So they have like 40 hours a day to learn the opening theory, all of the variations still move 30 and even behind that, and they're absolutely crazy about it. But we are normal human beings. We don't have that much of a time. So our task for the opening is to bring all of our pieces into the game and be ready for a real fight, right? And then the problem with the move e4 is that you need to be prepared against whatever black is gonna do. There is a move e5, which is itself a great number of different openings that might happen. There is a move c5, which is the Sicilian defense. There is a move c6, the Caro-Kann, following up by d5. There is e6 and d5. There's a French defense. There is knight f6, and so many more. Now, the problem is, against all of those openings, each and every one of them, you need to know what you need to do. It's not like you can just say, okay, I don't care what my opponent is doing. I'm gonna play knight to f3, bishop to c4 every time. Then I'm gonna castle and I'm gonna bring off all of my pieces to the center and I'm gonna just be happy with that. Well, that might work against this setup that black chose here, but if black plays something else, let's say the Sicilian defense, then they play e6, which is one of the multiple ways to play in the Sicilian defense, and you continue your setup, they can immediately play d5, and then suddenly you got a problem. Your bishop is under attack, your pawn is under attack, you cannot just go on and say, I don't care, I'm gonna castle and be happy with it, because, well, you're gonna lose a lot of pieces. That's going to be a problem. So you need to absolutely know what to do against those openings. Now, you might ask me, isn't that the same in every opening, no matter what you do? Well, not really, because if you play d4, it's much more flexible and you need to know much less theory to be able to play it properly. One very famous example of that is, of course, the London system, the opening where you play the move knight to f3, then you place your bishop on f4, the pawn on e3, then the second bishop either to d3 or to e2, then you castle, and then you're good to go. At least that is what so many players are recommending, especially on YouTube. That is an incredibly popular opening. Now, that is once again not the one I recommend. Why? Because of the same problem as with Hope Chess. Even though that is a legitimate opening, it's not like you're doing something crazy. No, you can objectively play it, and many players are doing it. But I would argue it's not really helping you to improve your chess, the same as with Hope Chess, because you always do the same thing. And what I see with 99% of players who are playing this London thing, they're just placing their pieces like that, and then they're absolutely helpless. They don't know what to do, and they do it in every single one of their games. They don't analyze it, and they have no idea what to do after the opening. Also, a little bit of my personal touch, if you allow me. I just think it's a very boring opening. I have played against it. I have played the London system myself just to get an experience of what it feels like. It feels incredibly passive to play it. I mean, I don't know if you really enjoy it. Let me know in the comments and explain why you like this opening, because I'm absolutely clueless in this question. Anyway, it's a very good example of how you can get away in the d4 openings pretty much without any opening knowledge at all, still get to like move 10 or 15 with a pretty decent position. If you do the same with the e4 openings, well, you might get into trouble very, very soon if you don't know what exactly you need to do against a certain variation Black would play. So now I want to go to the second key opening principle. The second key opening principle you absolutely must know: religiously focus on your development. Now, if you're gonna take just one thing out of this entire video, just take this one. If you're gonna focus on your development like crazy, the golden rule of the development: one piece, one rule. If you're gonna make your goal in every single one of your games to focus on the development, just believe me, you're gonna become such a stronger chess player. You're gonna increase your chess rating immediately. If there is just one thing you can do, that is exactly that. So, very important to develop all of your pieces as fast as possible and as active as possible. Let's talk about how to achieve that. And I'm gonna do that on the example of the opening I recommend you play with d4 instead of the London system. It's called the Collie system. Now, it has pretty much all of the advantages the London also has, which is just learning this one setup when you put your knight on f3, when you put your second bishop to d3, this bishop to b2, and castle, and then you are good to go. But first of all, it doesn't end there, because if you understand the ideas behind that, you have a very cool plan, very active one when you attack your opponent. We are going to talk about it in a second. And secondly, you have such interesting positions. I mean, that is just a very cool opening to play in chess. You have a clear plan to play for a checkmate. So you attack your opponents, you get a lot of fun in the process, and you learn so much because there are different ways your opponent can answer. And then you get some rich positions on the board. And if you are playing against stronger and stronger opponents, because, well, you understand these principles, you apply it, and you become much stronger, then you can improve basically your entire life with it, because even the greatest players are doing it and get very good positions out of it. So how do you achieve that? First of all, you develop your knight. Now, where do we develop our pieces? Remember, we talked about the importance of the center. That is helping us. That is like a hint for us where we want to put our pieces. So for example, if you think where to put this knight, it's clear for you, you want to go towards the center, because the knight would just have more functions than it would have from the side of the board. That is very logical. And also remember, that is the city center, the place where all of the best parties are happening, and you never want to miss the best parties in the city. Now, let's say the opponent does the same. He plays knight to f6. How do we continue? Well, we need to develop our light squares bishop. Therefore, we play the move e4. Now, you might say, well, now this bishop is stuck, but remember what I said earlier, this bishop is going towards b2, and then it has a very good perspective from there, so we don't worry that it's locked from this diagonal. So we play that. Let's say black also does the same. We play the move bishop d3, because that is the most active square for the bishop to go, and it's very flexible here. It's gonna have very good attacking prospects. Now let's say black plays bishop e7, because that is the main move. We castle. And that brings us to the next very important principle you absolutely need to follow in chess, which is make sure your king is secure before attacking. Pretty much make sure your king is safe before doing anything else. Back to the city center example, the king doesn't want to be in the center because, well, God knows what can happen in the center of the city. There are a lot of stuff going on, there are a lot of people, and you don't want your king to be exposed there. It's like a very famous person, and if you put it on a very busy street with a lot of people around, well, something dangerous might happen to your king. So you rather want to put your king in the middle of nowhere, so nobody can find it, and then you can focus on your attack. Well, let's assume that our opponent is also not stupid and he's doing the same thing. Now we continue executing our plan. We play the move b3. We want to place our bishop here, which is gonna help us with our attack later on. Now, there are many different things for black to go about this position. So many players, for some reason, are playing knight c6. It's like the main move in so many variations, either here or much earlier, as early as on move 2. And I never recommend you do it, because that limits your potential so much. You are not attacking the center. It's very difficult for you to get something active, but nevertheless, so many people are doing it. Well, let's say we do that. We don't really care. Maybe there is one exception, because this knight wants to go to b4 and then attack our bishop. So before we continue our plan, we want to play a3 and just make sure that is not possible. That leads me to the next essential principle you must always and always pay attention to, and it's even applying to the entire game, not only the opening. Always think about your opponent's ideas. Remember, please, you're never playing chess alone. Never. You always have an opponent. So many, especially low-rated players, they are just so self-centered. They are thinking, well, what I'm doing is very important. I want to deliver a checkmate, and they just don't care what the opponent is doing. He's, playing very weird stuff anyway, so why should I care? No, you shouldn't think like that. You shouldn't think that your opponent is playing knight c6 and, well, he just wants to continue his development, nothing special. No. You absolutely need to think about every single one of your opponent's moves. How do you do that? Well, you normally ask yourself two questions. First, you ask yourself what the knight is doing now on c6 that it wasn't doing earlier when it was on b8. Well, obviously it has access to some squares here: b4, a5, d4, e5. What are important of those? Well, d4 is not a problem because you are protecting it enough times. In different situation, it might not be the case. Maybe d4 pawn would be unprotected, and then you absolutely need to take care of that. But this time it's fine. e5 is also not a problem because you covered that square multiple times. But b4, and of course you always start with squares forward, the most active opportunities for your opponent. That is essential. The most active opportunities are checks, captures, and threats. Well, in this case, the knight has absolutely no way to give a check because we have put our king into safety. Then it cannot really take anything. Just this pawn, but like I said, it's protected, but that can create a threat, which is knight to b4, and you never want to allow your opponent just to exchange the knight for a bishop. By the way, that is another mistake so many low-rated players are making. Just never exchange your bishop for a knight without a very, very concrete reason. Of course, there might be an exception where you exchange a bishop for a knight, but for that you expose your opponent's king. For example, here, if he has to take with a pawn, then the king is naked and you can attack it. That I can understand, but never do it without a very concrete, a very good reason. Because the bishop is just objectively better than the knight. So many players are saying, no, the knight is tricky, it can give you a fork and so on. Yes, that is true, and you should be aware of that, and you should keep an eye on the knight. But it doesn't change the fact that the bishop is stronger than the knight. Of course, it depends on the type of the positions, because there might be an open position where the bishop is much stronger, and there might be a closed position. The closed one is, if you imagine the pawn on e5 here, so the entire center is closed, then the knight are stronger than normally, but still, bishops are better. That is a rule, and there might be exceptions to it. So that's the first question. You have asked yourself what the knight is doing on c6 that it wasn't doing on b8 before, and we have got our answer. The second question is what the knight was doing on b8 that it's not doing anymore on c6. In this case, it's not really much because, well, it was just there very passively, not doing a lot. For example, it could have got to d7 and now it can't go there. Well, it's not that relevant in this particular position, but sometimes it could be very important. For example, that knight might have protected something on d7 that is not protected anymore, and therefore you can take advantage of that. So those are the two questions you must always ask yourself. Once you figured that out, you need to ask yourself the third question. Is it dangerous for me? Does it create a dangerous threat for me? He wants to play knight b4. Is it a real problem? Well, in this position. Yeah, it is rather a problem because you remember we don't want to exchange our bishop for a knight, and therefore once he does that we need to go back, and we don't want to do that because we like our bishop on d3, it's a very active piece. So if the answer is yes, that is a problem for us, then the next question you should ask yourself how to stop it, how to prevent that from happening, and that is exactly why we play the move a3. That's a useful move in general, and it helps us to deal with this threat. The bishop can go there, the knight can go there, we just control that square, and afterwards we can continue with our plan. Now the biggest problem for black in this concrete setup in this position, because they didn't play the move c5, they are very passive. And once again, so many players, most of your opponents are gonna do that if you are playing the Colli system as white and if you are lower than 2000 rated player. But what do you do as black? You have absolutely no ways to deal with it, to play. Like the engine suggests b6, okay, that helps you somehow to continue your development, but then still this bishop is going to be pretty stupid there. So let's see. We continue our plan, bishop b2, let's say they play bishop b7, we develop our pieces. Remember the golden rule, one piece, one move. Very, very important. Now, all of our minor pieces are developed, and that is the normal order. You first develop your minor pieces, knights and bishops. They say you first develop the knights and secondly you develop the bishops. In most of the cases that's true, but it's not like the law that you absolutely need to apply. Sometimes it might be reasonable to start with a bishop, so it's not like a must, but in general you develop the knight first, then the bishops, and then you develop the major pieces, which are the queens and the rook. Now that leads me to the fifth key opening principle that you absolutely need to know. That is, have a plan. Somebody really famous and really smart once said it's better to have a bad plan than not to have a plan at all. The reason is, if you're just randomly move your pieces here and there, you shuffle it around, you are never gonna achieve a goal because you don't have any goal. That is as simple as that, so you need to have a plan. For example, here the plan for white is to place that knight on e5. That is the center of the board. So how to understand what your plan should be, where either you just know it, and if you take a deeper look in the Colli system, and I'm gonna tell you how you can do it, then you're gonna just know the plan. But if you don't, if you face a completely unknown position for you, you can figure out the plan. But to do that, you need, of course, to be based on those key opening principles and in general key chess principles. You should play on the part of the board where you are stronger. You see that pretty much all of those pieces, these two bishops, this knight on f3, they are heading towards the king side and the center. White is not having that much on the queen side, although actually white is ready to attack everywhere, but that is a very typical plan, this square on e5, to use the advantage of it. First of all, it's black to move, so let's make a move. Yeah, you see the engine suggests the best move for black is knight to b8. That is how desperate the situation is, but let's take something else. Let's say h6. So we have different ways to exploit this position, but the typical plan is to place the knight onto e5 to the center, and then we want to support it with the move f4 and create this pawn structure here supporting that knight. That would help us to attack later on. I don't know, let's say rook c8 they play. We play the move f4 and we support that knight. Now that if it takes, we can just take with the f-pawn, opening up our rook, and our general plan is just to deliver a checkmate. And of course, there are different variations. It's not like these concrete moves should happen. And of course, black could have taken here on e5, and then we take with this pawn and still go on with our attack. But I just want to show you this key principle. I don't know, we play f4, let's make some random move for black. Then we want either to continue here with g4, g5, or just bring our rook over here, Sometimes the pawn is still on h7, that was just my move h6, and so we want to bring the rook there, then we attack with the bishop, then we want this pawn to go forward to target the knight, then we want to bring the queen, and finally we achieve the checkmate. So that is what I call the plan. That is our plan, and of course we need to adjust it depending on what our opponent is doing. So a good rule of thumb is never follow your plan blindly without taking into account what your opponent is doing, because back to one of the main principles, you never play alone. You must always think about your opponent's ideas, like we did here with the move knight to b4, because you see this bishop is absolutely essential for our attack, so we cannot just allow our opponent to exchange it. Now you know the plan. The question is, how do you really execute it in a real practical game? To illustrate that, I want to show you the game that Fabiano Caruana himself played as white against Arjan Tari, and we are gonna see exactly how these ideas are executed into practice. So it all started exactly like we learned with knight f3 and e3, and then black played c5. Well, that is a more advanced way to go as black, because you put some pressure on the center. Remember the first principle, we always must fight for the center. It doesn't matter whether we are playing as white or as black, we must put some pressure on the center. So black is doing that, and we are just executing our plan. You see that here Caruana ignored that knight b4 move for a while, because he thought, well, it might be not that dangerous, because first of all we have the check. Secondly, we can just step back for a second, then play a3, remove that knight back, and then put our bishop back. That is not that significant if a black's pawn is already on c5. In our variation, the pawn was still on c7, so that maneuver would actually help black to play knight b4, then play c5, and then when we kick the knight away, it goes back, but the pawn is already on c5. In this case, it doesn't really matter. So Caruana continues with knights to d2, black plays b6, and now Caruana executes the first step of the plan, which is placing the knight in the center of the board, knight to e5. That is the move with the tempo, because the knight is attacking this knight. Now, there is a huge difference between this hope chess we have talked about in the beginning of the video that I never ever recommend you to do, and really making this move with a tempo. The difference is knight e5 is a useful move. That is a move we want to make anyway. That is the move that improves our position. And if at the same time it creates a threat for our opponent, it attacks his knight, that is even better. A hope chess is when you make a move attacking one of your opponent's pieces, but it's not useful for yourself. Well, how to give an example? Bishop b5. That is a hope chess because, well, knight e5 and bishop b5 both are attacking the knight, but it's so different because knight e5 is part of our plan. We are going into the center and we want to launch our attack on the king side with the help of f4. That's why this knight has to be away from the f3 square. Bishop e5, on the other hand, is going away from our plan, which is to attack here on the king side. The bishop is not there anymore, and we are just hope that our opponent is going to miss the fact that the knight is hanging. By the way, to avoid 99% of blunders, you just, every time your opponent makes a move, must think what is the idea behind that move, as we have talked earlier. And so if our opponent just protects that, then we are left with nothing, because we cannot execute our plan anymore. We haven't won any pieces because our opponent didn't blunder it, so we are stuck. That is the huge difference, and I hope you're never gonna play the hope chess after this video. So Caruana played knight e5, then f4. Rook goes to c8, a3. Finally he does it because at some point it might really happen that this knight comes to b4. That would spoil our idea. And also after the rook is on c8, that has an additional idea that black attacks here the c2 pawn. So once you take on d4, the rook opens up, and then c2 pawn can be lost once you play bishop e2. So black plays knight e7. Once again, the problem for black is you don't really know what to do. Like, you don't have a clear plan. For white, it's very simple, and you see how Caruana smoothly executes it. But for black, I'm not even sure what you're supposed to do. So black plays knight e7, this queen comes to f3. So yeah, you know the general plan, to attack on the king side to deliver a checkmate. The concrete execution steps can be different in every case. There is rook f3, rook h3 plan, there is g4, g5 plan, there is queen f3, queen h3 plan. So that depends sometimes on the concrete variation of what your opponent is doing, sometimes on basically your preference, because in this concrete position, rook f3, of course, is a reasonable normal move, but Fabiano thought that with the help of queen to f3, he is gonna create more difficulties for his opponent. And that's very important to understand. Chess is always a battle of two players. It's not like you are playing alone, and it's not like you are playing against a computer. You're playing against a real human being who has his emotions, fears, ideas, hopes, and you absolutely need to take into account that factor. Chess is very much of a psychological game. That is very important to remember. So black plays rook to c7. Now queen goes to h3. Well, just keeping an eye on this square, saying that just give me a few moves, I'm going to deliver a checkmate, I'm ready for it. That is my goal. It's very clear, but it's still very difficult for black to deal with it. Black played b5 because they want to create counterplay. They don't want to be there and just wait for the opponent to come and destroy them. By the way, you always should try to create counterplay in your games, never be too passive. But the problem is, it's just too slow. If that would be black to move right now and they would be able to play c4, that would be a completely different story, because first of all, this bishop is no longer opened, it's just stuck there on b2, at least in terms of the attack. And also this bishop is under attack, it has to go back because, well, there are no sacrifices just yet. But chess is tragedy of one tempo. Just one tempo short for black, and white is absolutely winning because now both of the bishops are completely open, ready to attack, and that is what makes the difference here. Bishop takes c5, and now knight to c6, brilliant move here, sacrificing the knight, attacking the queen, so absolutely no way to ignore it. But once you take it, it doesn't matter whether you take it with the knight, with the bishop, with the rook, because anyway there is bishop takes f6, in this case once again attacking the queen, and you cannot take it back because of checkmate in 1. The knight on f6 is a very important defender in the black's camp, that's why white wants to eliminate it. So in the game that happened, now at least the queen is not under attack, so black has an opportunity to continue the game for a little bit. But queen g4, notice how Caruana creates a new threat with his every single move. He has a plan to deliver a checkmate, so he wants to put as much pressure on his opponent as possible. He does that by creating as many threats as possible. So queen g4, creating yet another checkmate threat, g6, now queen h3 back, creating a new threat of queen takes h6, h4, and now b4. That is a tricky move, maybe not necessary, but just convenient to attack this bishop to put it away, and then queen goes to h4. Well, the reason behind that, the bishop was attacking on e3. Once again, two questions: what the bishop was doing on c5 that is not doing anymore, what the bishop is doing on g6 that it wasn't doing on c5. Caruana thought it's very cool to keep the bishop away, because either it goes to b6, and then this knight is not protected anymore. The bishop was protecting it there, and then that would be a move with a tempo. And well, that would be an idea for white to go for it. And the second variation for black to go is bishop d6, but then this pawn on e3 is not under attack anymore. And once again, queen h4 is easier to implement. Queen g5, basically this queen is coming to h6, creating yet another checkmate threat, and this time that's absolutely unstoppable, because notice king h7 would run into queen takes h5 and checkmate is coming. So that is exactly what happened. Knights to f5, queen h8, checkmate. Caruana won this game, and that wasn't a beginner playing against him. That was a very, very strong chess grandmaster from Norway, Arjen Tari. Now remember, I promised you some advanced stuff to truly change the way you play chess forever. Well, the time for that has come. Let me show it to you. I have worked on this project for more than a year, and now finally I'm ready to share it with you, and the first participants are really happy about it. We are going to take a look at their feedback. That is a 10-day opening mastery course, as you can see on my t-shirt as well. This course is designed to help you build a complete and holistic opening repertoire in just 10 days, but it goes way beyond that. Let me just show it to you. To find it, all you need to do is go into the description of the video and just click the link to Journey to Grandmaster, and you immediately find yourself on this website from the course, and you can see the fancy video here. But what are those words mean? Of course, that sounds very good, complete holistic opening repertoire, but you might ask me, okay, why on earth is it useful for me? I'm a 1400 rated player. How can I improve after this course? Well, let me show it to you. First of all, it's complete. Why is it complete? Because once you complete this course, you are ready to face whatever your opponent might play, both as white and as black. So it's not just one opening, it's a complete opening repertoire for both sides of the board. So it's a complete opening repertoire both for white and black inside of just one single course. And you can do all of that in just 10 days. That is amazing. The program is divided into 10 days. Of course, you are absolutely not obliged to complete the program in 10 days. You have all the time you might want to have for it. It's lifetime access. You always can go back and forth. Then we have the word holistic. What does that mean? Well, imagine you go to the Chessable and you want to get a bunch of courses to learn some openings, or you just go to YouTube and search for certain openings that are interesting for you. And so you learn the Caro-Kann defense as black, you learn the London system as white, and more of that for both white and black. The problem with that, though, is that those openings might not be connected at all. You get a completely different type of positions in every opening, and you don't understand all of them at the same time. So whereas one type of positions might be intuitively easy for you to deal with, another one would just completely be difficult and you don't understand what to do there. Well, with this course, you are sure that all of those openings are built together for you to build a holistic system, so you can face whatever opening that might happen on the board and you still know what to do with it, and of course how to play after the opening. Because it's not just the opening course, you get a very deep understanding of the ideas you want to implement after the opening as well in the middle game, and sometimes even some endgame concepts that arise out of those opening that we learn. Because I don't just want you to have this first few moves, memorize it and go on. No, I really want to improve your chess understanding profoundly, not using some opening tricks. Of course, we talk about that as well, because you need to know what your opponent might prepare for you. But we go like 1,000 times deeper than that and truly improve the mindset that you have so you can understand chess much better. Now, let's move on to what you can actually get inside of the course, because I guess that is the first question you have. What actually are there? It's looking so fancy, but I have no way to go beyond that and see what's happening inside. Well, let me demonstrate it. So first of all, let's see what you get here. That is the list of all of the advantages that the course has. Of course, it's not only about me telling you what to do, it's about you working on it. And for that, I have prepared almost 100 practical tasks, and the number is going to increase with the time, to help you use the knowledge you have learned immediately into the practical task. That way you can be sure that you can really use that, and then of course you play your real games and try the stuff we have learned, and you are implementing the ideas that you have understood throughout the course, you have mastered it into your practice immediately. So yeah, I have just talked about that, all of those results and advantages you get here. Then you have also these bonuses you get, the private community, which is an amazing place for you to talk to other chess players who are just on the same journey as you are, share your ideas, results with this course, with other stuff that you are doing to improve your chess, and of course to ask your questions. And I am there to daily help you, guide you through the course and ask all of the questions you might have regarding certain variations, regarding certain concepts and ideas. That is just priceless, and you can take advantage of that. And of course, we do some giveaways there just for the members of the course, so don't miss out on that as well. What's included? Well, we have, like I said, 10 days of the course. We start with key opening principles like we have just done throughout this video. So that is a rough understanding for you of what you can expect in day one. I also share my story and what has worked for me, my key takeaways, those ideas, how to be successful, how to improve at chess in general, to motivate you a little bit. That is, according to the students' feedback, is actually what helps a lot when you just start. Then we dive deep into the concrete openings. We start with white, we start with the move d4, then we learn how to beat the King's Indian defense, how to beat the Grunfeld defense, Benoni, Dutch defense, and so many different openings, how to deal with all of them. Of course, we base it all on the Collie system, exactly the one that I have shown you here today, but we go like 1000 times deeper into that. Then we continue with black. We learn how to deal with the move e4 first, and we base that on the Philidor defense and old Indian defense if white is playing d4. Well, the great thing about that is that we have a universal system where we play the move d6 against anything white might have prepared, and then we understand the concept, the setup that we need to implement, and we don't really care whatever white is doing, we are ready for it. But we are not just blindly executing it, but we understand those ideas deeply, and then it gives us really rich position. And another huge advantage of this opening is that it's not a mainstream opening. So when your opponent is playing e4, he's probably more or less well prepared against c5, e5, c6. But if you play d6 and then you play the Philidor defense, which is with knight f6 and e5, then in most of the cases, he's already lost because either he never seen this position or he has very limited knowledge. But you, after this course, you have a fantastic knowledge. You basically are ready to play this opening against any human being on planet Earth, at least for the opening stage, and then the middle game position arising from that. You're completely ready for that, and especially against your level rated opponents, you are going to be just much stronger than they are. You are going to understand the position so much more, and based on this experience, you're going to outplay them pretty easily. That is why I like so much to choose not the main stream openings that everybody is playing, but rather those openings that are still great. I mean, there is absolutely nothing wrong with them objectively, but that first of all, you understand it very good, and secondly, your opponents don't really have a lot of experience with it, don't prepare it that deeply as you do, therefore you get a huge advantage. So that is what we cover in the second part of the course. Of course, there are overall more than 110 pure value video tutorials. Then in the end of the course, we cover also all of the other stuff, English Open in London system, and so many more. Very important. But if we know the key concept, then it shouldn't be difficult for us, whatever our opponent is doing. Now, if you don't believe me, let's take a look at what Benedikt, a real chess player from Germany, is telling you about this course and his experience with it.
Hi, my name is Benedikt Huber. I'm a German chess player and I have almost 2100 ELO. Now, because of my rating, I've been thinking for a long time that I got it figured out with the openings. But no, especially with black, I've been having some real problems because I just couldn't find an opening that promised fighting chances, was solid, and that didn't require me to learn just heaps of theory, right? But this course has just helped me massively with that by providing some clear lines, clear ideas that help you in the middle game as well, and by using just minimal amounts of theory. Not only that, but it has also helped me with the white pieces by giving me some really nice lines against, for example, the King's Indian defense. And they are all based not on what the computer thinks is best, but what is the most active and what comes naturally and just simply according to principles. And not only has this course helped me improve with openings, but also in the middle game by providing me with these set ideas, but also reminding me of the principles, also helping me just play better in other positions as well. So I absolutely have to recommend this course. It is incredible.
You might say, well, Benedikt is a very experienced player, he is pretty advanced and the course is great for him, but what about me if I'm just 800 rated player, I'm not that advanced, whether the course would be useful for me? Well, you can take a look at what Raphael says here. He is 816 rated player on chess.com, but as you can see, he was more than happy with the course. Afterwards, you get here free tutorials from the course. If you want to dive a little bit deeper and get a more of understanding of what to expect out of the course, please take a look at those videos. Even if you decide that you don't want to buy the course, it's absolutely fine. Just go there and enjoy those free tutorials. First of all, that is a video with my story where I share with you my key takeaways here. And then that is another one that is a video about the Collie system we have learned today, but a little bit deeper in terms of the concrete variations we cover here. You can see that is one part of that, and you're gonna definitely get a lot out of it. So just go for it, completely free there for you. But I guarantee once you're done with it, you're definitely gonna want more, because well, I worked so much on this. I'm pretty proud of this course, and hopefully you're gonna be happy with it as well. Now, let me show you what the course looks like inside. Before I reveal you that, make sure to watch till the end, because I have a very, very special offer just for the viewers of this particular video. So that's going to be incredible, just a cherry on top of that, but you're gonna enjoy it so much. So once you have purchased the course, you're gonna get access to your profile on the course portal here, and then you can click on take a course, and you get to here, you click on your course, and here you have currently 236 lessons. Those are divided into types of videos or other types of lessons. So there are videos here, video tutorials, what we play, the key opening principles. Then there are practical tasks. That's exactly what I have talked about before. So first of all, tutorial video, let's take a look. Here you can watch it, then you can go on, you can see your progress. Very important to keep an eye on your progress, because once you complete the course, once you complete all of the lessons, you get a certificate of completion, and you can be very proud of yourself. You can share it with your friends. And well, I have a very special present for you at the end of the course, but you're gonna be surprised with it once you are done. You also have the practical tasks here. You just click on it, and you get inside of this Lichess study I have created for you. It depends on the exact position that we are talking. It's dedicated specifically to every video, at least one puzzle you get, and it's gonna be bigger and bigger with the time. So here you need to find the best move, and then it goes on. I explain you why that is the best move, and of course, that is a very detailed explanation in the video that follows. After the main part of the course, you also get a bunch of bonus videos in pretty much every single day of the course, because I wanted to do my best to give you as much very relevant. There is like no lesson here which is just there to increase the number of the lessons. All of them are specifically dedicated to help you understand the point deeper. And the same applies to the bonus videos. They are like diving even deeper into what really matters, maybe a type of ideas that happen in the real practical games. This course is focused on the practical stuff so much. For example, there is a rubric here, playing against 2000 rated engine. So I take the variation that we have just learned in this day, and then I start from this exact position, playing against the engine, see what kind of challenges you get, and explain you how to deal with those challenges, and I proceed through the entire game till the end. Now, if you are still not sure whether that's really the thing that would help you improve your chess, bring it to a completely new level, I have 3 great pieces of news for you. First of all, if for some reason you are not happy with the course, I can't really imagine a reason for that, and so far nobody has taken advantage of this feature, but if for some reason that happens to you, absolutely you can get your money back inside of our 7-day money-back 100% guarantee. Absolutely no question asked. Just write an email to our support team, and we are gonna be happy to give you your money back. The second thing is the course is going to be constantly updated. So you're gonna go through it, and sometimes you're gonna have some questions, and I will be happy to answer it, but maybe those would be kind of profound questions. Like there is a certain variation that is particularly interesting for you, and I haven't covered it in the course for some reason. I have tried to make it as full as possible, but you understand chess is such a rich game, it's never possible to cover absolutely everything. But you can leave a feedback, and then I will be happy to create an additional video for you if it seems like that could help really to make the course richer, not just put everything inside that's gonna disorientate people. That is not what I want to achieve. But if it truly feels like a good next step for the course, I would definitely make a video about it, or I can just would be very happy to add some additional information just for you to help you understand the question that you might have. And finally, the third thing that would absolutely blow your mind, if you're going to be fast enough to be in the first 10 people to buy the link from this video, viewers, then you're gonna get a completely free lesson with me as a bonus to help you guide through the course or talk about the issues you might have and help you get as much as possible from this course, and in general help you structure your way into your goals in chess. All you need to do to get it, once you have bought the course, just write me an email that you have come from this video and you are ready to take advantage of your free lesson. Now you know absolutely everything you need to know about the course. Just feel free to go using the link in the description to the web page and take a look at those free tutorials ready for you to just give you a feeling of what to expect and of course to provide you as much value as possible. I hope to see you inside of the course, and otherwise in this video I tell you a very important piece of advice to improve your calculation process, because that would help you to achieve the next level of chess much faster.